I know we're all excited to get back to the number 5 pocket axe, but today we're going to take a slight detour. We're going to make some soft jaws for our vise out of a scrap piece of aluminum. I understand. No, I get it. I don't like delay either. I like to stay on the project. However, this is getting my goat. Trying to capture this axe while holding this, I'm shy of one hand. So let's take it. Let's stop for a minute and get it done properly so we're not messing up our axe and making our life frustrating. So what do I have here? I just got a scrap piece of aluminum from my much maligned pile of junk out off the shop corner. I know Mrs. W, she wants it gone, but boy, it's just situations like this that nice to have it around. What do I have here? I don't know where this came from. Something in my junk pile. It looks like it was an old address, not mine, from something. But this is a thin gauge aluminum. This would be perfect. I mentioned in the previous video, I'd like to have some brass jaws. You know, I like brass just because it's just neat. You know, it just has that touch of elegance. You know, you don't quite get from aluminum, but aluminum will work just fine as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a set. I'm going to go off memory, just like I had back in the old days, back in the high school days, where we had kind of a wraparound jaw that fit over our vise that worked, that, didn't slip around. It was really an elegant design. I think we've got just enough material here to get the 2 pieces out that we need. Clomp, clomp, clomp over to the vise in my Dutch wooden shoes. Yep, I'm wearing the wooden shoes. And I do wear the wooden shoes. I leave them in the shop. You know, of course, hard to beat the tactical clog, the Dansko clogs that I wear, but I do like wearing the wooden shoes, providing I don't have to walk too far. Here's something that was cool. I was looking for the right hammer. What's the right hammer to flatten these edges out here? And this is kind of cool. This is a brass hammer. This is one that my grandfather built. That was in his things. You know, that's a big old chunk of brass right there. Be hard to find, wouldn't it? He must have made this a long, long time ago. He brazed a lot of things, but he's made that handle there, and this is really good. He probably used it for striking things, you know, maybe bearing surfaces or things where you don't want to mar the surface. But I thought, in memory of Granddad, we'll just use the old brass hammer. So I'll come over here to the anvil, and we'll flatten this out. Boy, your brass hammer works good. You know, and also you can't beat, it's nice to have around the shop a shot-filled hammer. Do you know why these hammers, these plastic ones, are filled with shot? Let me show you something that's really interesting. So sticking with the spirit of turning a 5-minute project into a 30-minute video, I'm going to show you something. We'll do some learning today. This is so interesting. So a traditional hammer like this, right? And we're going to strike metal against metal. What you get is a lot of bounce back. Watch. Not putting any weight on it, just the weight of the hammer. Watch how much it bounces. Okay? Now, let's take another hammer. This is one of my favorites, Snappy Tom snap-on hammer. Also, hardened steel, very similar. We have both these hammers are snap-on, but this one is shot-filled, meaning it's got an empty chamber on the inside where the lead or steel shot, whatever's in there, probably steel. I don't think anyone uses lead anymore, too much liability. Moves back and forth. Watch this. Still get some bounce, but not as much. See the difference? So why is that important? How does that work? Well, as you swing the hammer, the lead shot, or the steel shot, slides to the back of the hammer, and then as it comes in contact with the surface, when that energy is wanting to push the hammer back, that lead shot is slamming forward, dampening the blow. It's very effective. You get a hammer that's much more controllable. And you have the same thing with this. Even though this is not steel, this is a rubber mallet, but still shot. Watch the difference. You see? So that's the advantage, or the reason why a shot-filled hammer. Let's try the brass one here. That's interesting, isn't it? It does not bounce very much. And I think that a good portion of the energy, even though we're not really seeing it, it is dispersing in the brass as it changes shape a little bit. It's going to actually mushroom out the more we use it. So that's kind of a tutorial on shot-filled hammers. All right, so we'll straighten these out. You know, when you're straightening steel like this or aluminum, you know, for this situation like this, it doesn't matter if this material gets stretched, but an auto body, that can be a real problem, you know. So you want to be careful. You don't want to pound too much because it will actually stretch and deform the steel, making it thinner where you impact. Something like this, not so important. And it might even be helpful. We have a big wide surface like this, a big wide surface on the hammer, you know. It can really help to even things out. So what can you use for something like this? Any sort of sheet metal, sheet aluminum, you know, a stop sign, a road sign would be perfect. If I had one of those old ones laying around, that would be ideal. Nice and thick, good quality aluminum. Not recommending you go cut down your local stop sign, but you know, there's a lot of those things laying around. We want to do a couple things. We want to have some ears on it so it wraps around and holds it in place, and some ears on the side to keep it from sliding from side to side. So, you know, the first prototype is definitely going to be a little bit crude, but I'll line it up here and we'll just make some rough marks here and here. So we'll come up a little bit. This piece is a bit smaller than I'd like. And if I remember right, if we cut out a little tab like this here. Okay, so I've got a few chicken scratches on here, but this is the rough shape there. I did it in pencil and kind of thought about it a little bit. So we'll go the width and depth of the jaws. Right there, we're just going to use our Stanley combination square. Make sure that we're wide enough. And then now we're going to want to put a little ear on there, right? We got that little ear going on. Hopefully, am I going to have enough? If I do this, I don't know I'm going to have enough for the other one. Okay, since my piece is so small, I'm not going to be able to do it exactly what I wanted. So, using the power of the mind, we're going to not do those little ears. I'll explain here in just a minute. This will be, for our application layer, this will be just fine. So I'm going to use, this is 4 inches wide. So we'll just use the half of it. There's 2 inches. Now we've got these little guys here. We need to make these, and let me take the head off of this, and we'll kind of split the difference here. Hang that out there. This will be a nice template for our overhang there. It doesn't need to be very big. Let's just do something like this here. Trace around here. So it's basically a rectangle with a couple ears on it. Well, that won't work. Nope, that won't work. We can't go beyond that. We got to maintain the thickness of our jaws. So we'll hold that back here. All right, whenever you change your mind, do a squiggly so you don't accidentally cut it. We dodged a bullet there. Someone out in the YouTube land must be clairvoyant. Just shouting at me, don't do it. All right, so we'll just use this as our template. This is crude. We'll stop it right there. Remember, that's where our tab is. Let's double check, make sure. Here, same. All right, I think that is our shape. Okay, let's just dive in there. We'll just cut right on the line. They're using our tin snips, another foundation tool, one you got to have. So useful. Now you can cut aluminum with a table saw if you want a really nice straight cut, because you don't do teeth on a good table saw or any blade. Chop saws as well, they both work, is a carbide, which is exceedingly hard, and aluminum, which is exceedingly soft. You can do it. However, I have my really nice, because I'm doing finish work on the home, I've got my nice Diablo 80 tooth finish blades on there, and I don't want to be cutting aluminum with those now, do I? If I had more of a less valuable blade on there, then I could do that. But this works, I probably actually wouldn't. This actually works really good. So just keep following these along here, cutting our deals. It's no problem. Anyone can do this. So you have to admit, isn't this a lot more fun than playing Pokemon Go? Just think of what you could be accomplishing. Now, I'm certainly not the tin snip master. If you really want to know how to use these things, go talk to a sheet metal HVAC guy. They use them all the time, but they're designed, you can see, to kind of split the material. So the way that the tool is designed, that it's got those smooth edges so that it rolls over. When you have long pieces to cut, that's really important if you want to make a straight cut. Also, tin snips, if you didn't know, they come in straight cut, which is always the yellow color. It's kind of universal. And then they have the red and the green. And those are right and left hand. I'm not sure which is which. I don't use them all the time. Well, we can make our last cut here. Some of you recommend using lead, and I do have some sheet lead, but I don't like to use lead, because my hands are in contact with it all the time, and our skin is our largest organ on our body, and it absorbs a lot of things, and I don't know how much there is to that lead. How much is too much, but when you can use aluminum, why fool with it? So there's our template. Let's go fit it and see how close we are. So just a quick recap. When you're making these, remember when you're laying everything out, you want your jaw to cover the full width of that steel jaw, because we don't want to have complete coverage right there. And so when we make this bend, if you're probably wondering what the ears are for, so when we break the aluminum across here like this, it'll come over the top, and these ears will fold down and prevent it from going from side to side. So that's your main thing. If you can make the tops a little bit longer, which I made it longer, much longer than this, because it gives me a protective surface. So when I'm using these jaws as well, if I want to pound on top of the vise and with a softer material, and it protects me, because these are pretty hard edges too. So I'm just double checking here, and I can see that I need to make one little trim. So I'll just double check my width, because we want it to fit tight. We don't want it moving around and giving us trouble there. So I really got off my mark there. So you can see that's sticking over a little bit. We can trim that just a little bit. I already trimmed the other side. It was really far. Sometimes I'll cut things wide like that and then I can trim it to fit. We want to get this first one right, because we're going to use this for the template. Don't bend it yet. We don't want to bend it, then we have to go through this whole process again. But we can see right there when I flush the edges, that's nice. So it'll go, right, flush it on the bottom. What's wrong with that? It'll work really good. Okay, so let's use this, and we'll go trace out the other side. If we did our figuring, as Granddad used to say, gotta do my figuring. Did my figuring right, then we should have enough material left over here. And it was not an exactly square piece, straight piece there, I can see. But what's our critical side? Where's our factory edge? This is our factory edge there. Our critical side is on the bottom side, where it's going to cover the jaws, right? So if we have a little bit less on the top, that's okay. That's not a big deal. We're going to just trace that around there like that. Now, you want to make sure, don't forget to compensate when we're cutting these pieces for the thickness of the Sharpie. Because if we cut right on that line, what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is our piece is going to be too big. So when you put a T, always put a T for template, especially when you're doing multiples, because if you continue to, the Star Trek episode, when there was, I don't remember which one it was, there was a clone, like this population of people populated a planet, they were all clones, and they didn't have any new genetic material to come in and replenish the bloodline, and it diminished. It got worse and worse. So it's same principle with these things. If you use it, when you're doing template work, whether it be wood or metal, if you just keep using pieces, those little mistakes, they grow and grow and grow, and they compound into a big problem. So your when you're using a template, always use the same one. So because this is this is going to be a facsimile of it, we're going to want to cut on the inside of that line, and that'll bring us much closer to the dimension that we want. I'm a big fan of Star Trek. I mean, I'm not I did go to one Star Trek convention. That was a long time ago. I don't know that I'm that rabid, but not just any Star Trek though. I like the Next Generation, the second Star Trek, because I grew up with that on television, and man, I looked forward to that every week when that came out. But my dad, he was a big fan of the original Star Trek series with Captain Kirk, and we watched that too. I mean, that was on a rerun constantly when I was a kid, and we would watch that. And so I remember when I heard they were going to do a new Star Trek, and I first saw the captain, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the bald guy. I thought, what is this? What a radical departure from the swashbuckling, womanizing Captain Kirk to more of an intellectual captain, a thinker. And I think that's kind of what, I guess, my appeal to the Star Trek The Next Generation was, that it was, well, I guess it was the thinking man Star Trek. It was not about fist fights and overblown action. It was about the pursuit of knowledge and intellect and solving problems with your brain than just with brute force all the time. And I think it was a really special show, and I still enjoy watching it. When I was on the plane to Wisconsin, they had the Next Generation playing, and I watched some of those old ones I hadn't seen for a long time. There's a new the new Star Treks, the motion pictures, they're just not as good. I mean, the special effects and all those things are wonderful. However, it's just typical Hollywood over-the-top nonsense. It's just the reason why I don't pay any attention to that stuff. It's more in the line of the old one. So I'll be interested to see, I think CBS, there's a new series coming out. Not that it's going to do us any good. We don't have any television, but maybe it's something I can watch on the airplane someday. So there we go. So let's put our facsimiles together. Yeah, looks pretty good. Are these holes going to bother anyone? Are there any of you out there with OCD issues? I myself have one. Just a little bit. Here's the fun part. It's always fun to bend metal. We want to be sure, so we'll clamp this in the vise. We want to be sure and be really careful that we got our coverage, right? That we're covering those teeth. We want to be flush with the bottom. All right. Looks good. I'm going to break out even a different hammer. Anyone know what this is? What type of hammer is this? I'm not going to tell. Should I tell you? Yeah, I'll tell you. It's an Autobody hammer. Like Granddad's old thing. No? Well, where I got that one? Craftsman. Autobody hammer has a nice nice big flat head. Really good for sheet metal work because it spreads the force out and is less likely to bend or to dent. Stretch is the word I'm looking for. Stretch the metal. So with that clamp down in there, we'll just that's a good sound. Now we can bend that ear down. We'll clamp our second piece in. So the design's flaw that turned out not to be one was I thought that this was going to overlap and these were going to run into each other. I've got the vise clamped hard and they're fine. It works fine. So the final thing I'm going to take your hammer and just work around and contour the aluminum to the jaws so that when we open it, they don't slide off. They're not super sturdy there, but we can do it hands-free now. We can take these off and keep them in our toolbox and then put them here like that. Now they're going to be kind of different, of course, because they're handmade. So we're going to write on them B for back, front to back. So there's nothing wrong with that. Those work out great. They seem to hold in position really well. Something, you know, sometimes my wife is good at reminding me of this. I kind of get into a work mode and I struggle with things if I would just stop for a moment. She's really good about when it's frustrating for me to work in a cluttered house or cluttered environment where I got tools and a bunch of junk out. Maybe I didn't put my tools away the day before, and she's always good, let's stop a minute, let's take a half hour and clean things up and organize a little bit. And I always look at that as taking away from productivity. But what I've learned, thanks to her, is that it doesn't. It makes you more productive. And not only that, but I guess the added benefit is that it makes it so much more enjoyable. The work, instead of being a whole day of great frustration, is a day of more where you can enjoy your work. So I wanted to show you one thing here. So remember, I was talking about those ears. So I found a picture for you here online. And that is a pair of store-bought clamps. They're soft jaws that I found. And you can see they're very similar to the ones that I made, but they have these long ears on them, which is a nice feature because those ears would come off the back. They wrap around and you can bend them around the back of the jaws. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe I would have done that had I had a bigger piece of aluminum. But this works fine here too. So let's see how it holds the pocket axe. Very satisfying to complete a job like this. That, you know, something I've put off for years. I've never had a pair of these, and every time that I was messing stuff up and marring steel, and I always thought to myself, oh man, someday, you know, and that someday doesn't come around. And how long did that take? You know, a few minutes. How much better is that to be able to clamp our little axes, our soft tools, compared to the blocks. I didn't even show you the aggravation that I was having with those blocks. I mean, I must have dropped them on the floor a dozen times or two, but that holds super secure, and in any configuration, we can easily work on it. Now we can finish up our axe, and man, that really makes me happy. That's something, you know, why didn't I do that years ago? I mean, have you not said that yourself? I'm saying that right now. That's great. That makes me, I'm just thrilled with that. That's pretty neat. All right. What else was there? Is there anything else we need to talk about? I'm sure the video is long enough. Well, we'll get back tomorrow. We'll get back on the axle. This is going to be fun. I want to show you one here. Another one that I'm looking at that may be coming up in the future. That was gifted to me. Very grateful one of my subscribers. Look at this one. You're saying, well, you know, yeah, I've seen those before. What's so special about that? Well, not this one. This one, can you see that? If that says? Focus, focus. Made in Sweden. Made in Sweden, well, made in Sweden, what's it say there? A 1 1/4 pound. This is a boy's axe head. I don't know if they had a version of a boy's axe. It's still got some of the handle material in there. But it is on the small side of a boy's axe. But man, how nice is it? I mean, this is not too far. It's maybe a little heavier, a little too far from my favorite, the Grand Force Brooks small forest axe. But I've always thought I'd like to have one that was very similar to that carried maybe just a little bit more weight, maybe even a 1/4 pound. I think this is it. So maybe a handle very similar to the maybe like a Grand Force Brooks that's a small forest axe that is 15% bigger. How would that be? You can't buy something like that, you know. I mean, it's right in between that perfect Grand Force Brooks small forest axe, but sometimes where it's a little bit small to grab this, but you don't want a boy's axe. I mean, that right there, that is special. You know, interesting thing, you know, I was talking at the fair. One of the gentlemen that spoke up during the question and answer we did he brought up the point of doing a ring test, testing the quality of steel. And I haven't done that with one of these, but this is, you know, the classic Sandvik type. I believe this is Sandvik steel from Sweden. There just is no finer, just no finer. And I've never had one off the head where I could do a ring test in. So let's close the video with that, and we'll see how it sounds. So I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but the ring test, well, it got a little bit involved and turned into its own video. So I was going to attach you to the end of this one, but I'll put that together and save that for tomorrow. So another beautiful Thursday morning on the homestead. 4 days. 4 days and counting until Mrs. W returns home. So I was reading through the comments this morning, and I came across one by Sean Davies. And Sean Davies asked, are you going to do a surprise for Mrs. W when she gets back? I hadn't thought about that. I thought maybe that would be a great idea. I mean, from time to time when I pick her up at the airport or things like this, I'll try to show up with a bouquet of flowers. She's always loves that. She loves flowers. Maybe we should do something bigger. Give me some suggestions. Do you have any ideas in the comments, or something that we could do really nice for her? Something that doesn't take too much time. I have a lot of stuff going on, trying to get the remodel sorted out, so I can't be super ambitious. I know that we're going to be, soon we're going to be in the market for a new car for her. Her car is, how old is that thing now? Coming up on 15 years old? No, 12 years old. It's getting a lot of miles on it, and it's just starting to have some issues. We bought it from the auction years ago. It was a front-end collision. It had been wrecked. It has a salvage title. And it only had, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 miles on it when we bought it. But, it's just about time. Time to get her in something that's a little bit more reliable. We rented a Ford Explorer, the new Explorer, when we were on a trip, and both of us really, really liked that car. That was kind of something that I had picked out. I really like those new Toyota Land Cruiser or Toyota 4Runners, but man, the cost of these new cars is just staggering. And we are not the type of people that want to go into debt, so be something that we could buy a few years old. We don't buy new cars, but we'll have something that we can have a long time and that's going to be safe for her and to haul all of her stuff around in. So I might look at a car like that. I guess I could go buy a new car. That would be a big surprise. Pick her up in her new car. I think that's probably something that we ought to consider buying together. That brings something to mind. I thought there was some wisdom that I learned from my old neighbor Henry. He was in his 80s, and he was one of the most brilliant people I'd ever met. And the irony of that was that he'd never learned how to read. He told a funny story of during the Second World War, he went in, they drafted him to go into the military. No, he signed up, that's what it was. He volunteered to go into the military, and they said, he told him, well, I can't read. And he said, no, don't worry about it. We'll teach you how to read. And first we need to have the checkup. And so he had some dental problems, I remember. I don't remember all of the story, but they offered for some free dental care, and they said, yeah, that'd be great. And he said he was so mad, he went into the dentist and they pulled 6 teeth out. He thought they were going to fix him, but they just yanked him out. And then they didn't take him in the military because he couldn't read. So it's kind of a funny story. But Henry, him and his wife, they had a beautiful marriage. They really, really loved each other. They'd been married for a long, long time. And he said that they had a policy that they kind of enacted for the family, and it was this, that neither one of them would spend make any large purchases that were over $100. Now, this is coming from a long time ago when $100 was really meant something, but I thought that was a wonderful thing. It's something that Mrs. W and I, we try to adhere to as well, and I think it shows respect. So that's something I would advise you, or just I would recommend. Don't need to be advising you to anything. You know your family and financial situation is better than I do, but you might go get with your wife or with your husband and make that rule. Agree on a number that's suitable for your family, and promise one another that you won't spend this particular amount without consulting together, and shows respect, and that's what you do. That's what you do. That's just another small way of saying I love you. So please leave in the comments if you have any really great ideas, something that would really be a nice surprise for Mrs. W when I pick her up at the airport. And I would be interested in hearing that, and we'll video it for you. So I guess that's it. Oh, last thing, time-lapse. Well, many people like the time-lapse, but I think more people liked the real time. And I think I have to agree. There was one gentleman, I forget the comments, said, I don't like the time-lapse because it's about the environment, it's about the atmosphere, where the single, or the real time, is about the mountain itself. And I thought, that was pretty well said. I think think that's what we'll do. We'll do real time. You'll see it as I do. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.